Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is KDK, kiodiekin. Hope you guys are all having a great day. It's taken me some time now to get this video out because this is a story that I have been following now for the past couple of weeks. However, there were some more recent developments that just came out regarding Glen Palamento. Just to give you guys some of the backstory, I typically don't do a lot of ARCADE1UP videos. This is more or less a hobby channel with my RC cars, fireworks, tech, and everything else that I do love to cover. But one of the things that I definitely wanted to make sure that I always did, or something that I always do here on the channel, is give credit where credit is due. I'm a huge fan for community members in any hobby doing something and making sure that they get their proper recognition. That is something that is passionate to me. That is something that is very personal, because when you're trying to grow something, whether it be a channel, whether it be a product, whether you be a new developer making some advancements in technology, the last thing we want to see is somebody else getting credit for your work. And so that's one of the reasons why I do a lot of videos with the Supreme team. For those of you guys who know, it's because a lot of YouTubers were taking their work and giving credit to other individuals. And so I made a promise to them and to myself to make sure, give them the best possible opportunity to get their work out there, as well as other people in the community that are doing their just desserts. However, ARCADE1UP is a company or entity that has been doing some things behind the scenes that definitely need to be addressed. It definitely needs to be exposed, definitely needs to be talked about. And it's really sad when other content creators make videos after the fact, but they never do anything preemptively. Meaning people who know won't say anything a year ago, 2 years ago, last week, but they always make something or say something after the fact, after it happens, after something's been exposed. And so I know myself, as well as a few guests on my channel, we've talked about this, but primarily what ARCADE1UP is accused of, and we know Glen is right now involved in this situation. There's accusations and claims that they took his design for his Tron stick. I got photos of all that. That's what we're going to cover here today in this video, and I'll try to keep it as short as possible. But I wanted you guys to hear my voice about this because I definitely believe in speaking up for other individuals. But aside from that, ARCADE1UP has not been the most transparent of organizations, especially within retro gaming. And they seem to love to associate with people that won't ask hard-hitting questions, or people that will just kind of stay in the dark, won't really deal with the situation publicly as well as it needs to be. And so I know that there's been some things going on right now. I'm not going to play the entire video. You guys can see the video with Glens retro show, but he first started the ARCADE1UP global fan page back in 2018. In fact, I joined that group back at the end of 2018. I was probably member number like 200 or 300, somewhere around there. And so I never really heard of him up until that time period, but I do talk to him every now and then. He's a good guy. And so there was an announcement where they made an initial global fan page, or saying that they're finally going to be online, which is a lie. They've been on Facebook since 2018. But aside from that, I understand everything that is going on with Glen, the accusations and things that are going on in regards to his product. And just really quickly, I'll show you guys a photo. So one of these is his and the other one is ARCADE1UP. At this time, I forget which one's which, but one of these is ARCADE1UP, one of these is his, but they are very similar and identical. There's only so many little things that are, well, really there's no difference about it, but I'm not going to go into detail about it, but I just want to show you guys some quick photos of what Glen's Tron stick looks like, because this is one of the other accusations or claims, is that they stole his design and they copied his design. I believe they had some other Chinese knockoff company copy it, mimic it, and they're reselling it in their Tron cabinets. And so his doesn't break, but theirs do. That's pretty much the moral of the story there. But, you know, aside from that, I understand everything that is going on with Glen right now. But however, the bigger picture is this is not an isolated situation. This has been going on for a number of years. And so the information that I have for you guys today is ARCADE1UP is also accused of using code without a commercial license. None of you in this retro gaming space can run any ROMs, for the most part, without an emulator. And so there are some accusations and claims by some of the MAME devs, which you guys will see, that ARCADE1UP has not even had a MAME commercial license in order to do business. And the latest accusation is from Stegnos himself. I'm sorry, not Stegnos, but Steznak, who says he has never given out a commercial license to anybody. And if he had the money right now, he would sue ARCADE1UP. And so apparently somebody took his code, which is for the most part, in some cases, closed source. I'll get into that a little bit later in the video, but he does not have, ARCADE1UP is selling the Simpsons arcade cabinet, which is verified with Duckstation, which they do not have a commercial license for. And if they don't have a commercial license for the emulator, then you guys are getting a quote unquote bootleg cabinet, just like if you were buying it from any other reseller. And in order for a game or a company to have a fully licensed cabinet or a license to do business, they have to have a license for the artwork, they have to have a license for the ROM, and also the emulator. If you guys remember, a few years ago, even Nintendo was caught using an emulator, which was pretty odd. And I don't know what happened with that situation, but we're going to go into that. So a few weeks ago, I've been following this story, and there was a guy by the name of Imanu, let's see what his name is, Imanu888. He made a comment on the MAME forum, the Simpsons bowling game, which is using Duckstation. For those of you guys who don't know, the Simpsons bowling game was based off of PS1, yes, PlayStation 1, emulation PlayStation 1 hardware, even though it is an arcade. It's never really ran MAME, to my understanding. I know a few of you guys recently reached out to me, said that it runs fine on MAME now, but at the time, Duckstation or Simpsons bowling did not run right on MAME, and so now it does under Duckstation. And so Imano made this post, and as well as many others, asking ARCADE1UP to release their source code. Now, for those of you not familiar with what the GPL v2 emulation is, it's free software. So if you are a contributor or if you use the software, you have to re-upload all of your findings, all of your settings, everything that can be compiled to the next person, because this again is free software that anybody can use. We all use this kind of stuff from RetroArch, MAME, or whatever the case might be. However, certain parts of this in Duckstation, which I'll get into later, is not for commercial purposes, and it's not public. And so back in January 18, 2021, someone asked ARCADE1UP to release their source code, and they kept denying them. They never replied back to this guy. But they're asking ARCADE1UP to release the source code to the GPL v2 emulation that they are legally obligated to provide. Yes, ARCADE1UP is legally obligated to re-up or share their source code that they use to compile to run the Simpsons bowling game on the GitHub. They legally have to do it. This is not a skeptical thing. This is not if, ands, or buts. They have to do it. And so in regards to that comment, as well as additional people reaching out, ARCADE1UP responded. Thank you for contacting ARCADE1UP support. We do not provide source codes to fans to update and modify their units. That statement from customer service, which it did come from, is illegal. They cannot reject to upload anything here. And so we're going to go take a look really quickly. This is the only information that they have uploaded. In fact, after that statement, I think it was not even 12 hours later, someone here named Brian says, hey, replied back to Imanu, I was alerted about your support ticket. We can help you with the source code request. The developer is now preparing the source code for us. We will publish them on our GitHub page once it's ready, and we'll communicate with you when it's ready. We have no intention in violating any open source license, and the source code under GPL license will be published. Stay tuned, and we look forward to helping you in the future. So as you guys can see there, yes, they were obligated to submit it, which they have not done in the past 2.5 years. I think the Simpsons cabinet came out back at the end of June. Obviously, they would have had access to the source code and whatever their findings would have been in earlier parts of 2021. You guys could do the math. But this is 2023, and they have not complied. They have never complied with this, as you guys can see here. And so I thought they were going to do what they were supposed to do, but intentionally, they didn't upload everything. In fact, some of the devs have commented from MAME, have also commented on this particular situation, as well. As you guys know who Team Encoder is. They compiled, or they submitted half the code, which you can't even compile yourself. It is not even complete. And particularly what happens in a situation like this is what is happening is ARCADE1UP partners up with developers or contractors who are from China, and they rip off code from other people. They don't give credit. They don't mention anything in the end user license agreement. Not sure how they get access to a lot of this, but what happens is they work with these teams, and so however they're comprising any of this or relating this information or putting this the code together, it's not done with the best transparency, because they're supposed to upload all of this information. So imagine you go to Best Buy or Walmart, you buy a laptop computer, you're supposed to have a way to reinstall your software. They are obligated to give you that, because ARCADE1UP at this point in time is not just selling an arcade unit, they are also selling you software or hardware that can be reinstalled if you're using an Android based system. And so if your system ever crashes, you are legally entitled to reinstall your software that you bought from them legally. So all of that, there is no hacking, there is no obstruction going on. It is a free open source software with Android, and you can reinstall the operating system with the emulator, because this is all public. So obviously they didn't do what they were supposed to do, and this is pissing off a lot of devs in the community. So we're going to take a look here at some of the comments, because again, we understand what's going on with Glen, which I will get to that in just a bit. But the bigger picture here is that you have a company or entity coming into a community that's established, and they're pillaging off of the hard workers of the community that are making accessories. They're making emulators for these games to run. And in this particular question with Duckstation, the developer is upset. In fact, I'll go ahead and show you guys this right now. Let's see here. This is a statement from Stesnek, which is on this same Reddit thread. I just went ahead and screenshotted it for you guys to make it simple. I have sole copyright over most files. Those which have had external contributions are noted in the SPDX directive in the files. The contributors behind anything non-trivial did hand copyright over to myself, but I still tried to credit them in the files. And I don't have the money to fund lawsuits. So GG basically note a certain fork, which I won't name, takes commits and puts their name on them without attribution, and even when it's so far as stripping my authorship on old comments, yet nobody says anything to them. So the devs have labeled ARCADE1UP as not a friend to the community. If you guys go ahead and read this as well, they commented here on Imanu's post, great investigation. This has now been entirely erased from my to-do list. And so I'm not going to read all of this, but if you guys read all the comments here, you have a longtime MAME contributor named Mame Hayes, goes into detail about this, about what ARCADE1UP's obligations are based upon, their source code. And so some of the MAME devs have also noticed and went back that ARCADE1UP was caught using a non-commercial version of MAME in order to run their games. And I never followed that story. If you guys are familiar with when ARCADE1UP first came on the scene back in 2018, they had this advertised post on their website. And I know it doesn't really particularly pertain to the emulators themselves, but people wonder, like, hey, how are you guys emulating these games? And so their response in some cases was actually this, like, hey, we have our own proprietary hardware developed specifically for ARCADE1UP, but they never made any mention as to what was running. And so it wasn't until the later part of 2018 where Barry Sneaky added some a USB device or a USB input on the board itself, and that's when we discovered they were using MAME. And there are many questions about this, like, hey, is MAME even legally allowed to be sold? I never followed up with the story, never really looked into it, never really heard any more talking about it. But apparently now that what they were doing was not ethical, it was not legal for them to sell or have a non-commercial version of MAME. You guys can read this entire thread. I'll leave links here in the description of this video so you guys can research all this information for yourself. But this is really riling up the devs, and so just to give you guys a more broader spectrum or picture of what's been going on in the community, is that apparently, based upon what we're seeing here, what's been going on with Glen is that they're using product, they're using code, which is still under copyright protection because code is copyrightable. It is intellectual property, and you still need a registered agreement or a license to use some of these games that would run on the front end. RetroPie, Batacera, ARCADE1UP. I mean, unless a company is developing their own system or their own emulator to run these games, ARCADE1UP is a toy company. They don't spend time in software. So most of the time they're just going to have to use an emulator like we are in order to run some of these games. However, if they don't have a commercial license for them, then you're getting something that is pretty much bootleg or an unlicensed product if you're getting something that does not have the official licenses that are entailed. I don't know how they've gotten away with this or done this so far, but all of this is now just coming to light. So as you can see, if we continue this thread, it says, well, unfortunately, it seems that they would be willing to not provide access to the source code. This was 9 days ago after their initial message. And then Mame Hayes, the long-term Mame contributor, said that they are violating GPL and advised the gentleman to report this to the GNU org licenses GPL violation. So I'll go ahead and pull this up really quickly so you guys can kind of see an idea about what this is. Does the distribution contain a copy of the license? Now, if you actually go over to the Duckstation GitHub, it says that there's some commercial version there. However, again, I'm going off of what Stesnek is saying. I'm also looking at what it provides there as well. But he's saying that there are certain parts of Duckstation or whatever that is not open source and is not available for commercial use. So they're showing evidence that Duckstation was used. The licensed original versions of Duckstation are distributed under the lack of source provided by ARCADE1UP distribution, and their refusal to provide it upon request. At the very least, they'll have a record of it, and they may decide to take things further. So the devs over here are not too happy about the situation. Obviously, Tastemakers is in violation of the GPL licenses. And so let's go ahead and continue to take a look and see what else they are providing. So the following day, after ARCADE1UP did reach out to this gentleman and say that they are going to upload the source code, it can't be compiled, which means that there are still parts of it that they are holding on to that they do not want to make public. Reason being is because if they make it public, then anybody would be able to download it. And that is fair, but keep in mind, here you have MAME devs, Duckstation devs, people in the free community contributing code, and companies are coming in, taking advantage of it, reselling it back to you, something that you could download for free, and they don't want to re-upload their contributions, which they are legally entitled to do, because guess what? They're using the community work. The same work that you or I could upload, take it, resell it, but now they want to keep it to themselves, but they don't want to upload it. And actually, I believe the only reason why they decided to upload anything was I believe there was somebody that made some announcements, posted on Facebook about this. They got wind of it. And so, again, a lot of these people and companies, they aren't preemptive. They love to wait till something bad happens. They love to wait till there's some people talking about it instead of just doing what they should do, what's right to begin with. And so Imanu says again, to add to this, however, the source code has been re-released today, and I'm looking at it even as someone who doesn't understand code. I found that there's indeed added code to support the SSCI, CD read commands, trackball support, which are things that they improved on, things that they have to upload but apparently they are avoiding all of that altogether. And so I want to fast forward over here to Glenn's situation, because you know what, before I do that, I want to make a point about this here, is that, let's see, I've already showed you guys this. I looked around here. Okay, reason why I want to point this out is because at this time, Steznek didn't even know ARCADE1UP was using his source code up until about 7 days ago. I think some people in the community reached out to him, and nobody knew what his official answer was. In fact, some commenters advised him to reach out to Steznek and get his word. And so I started doing a little digging. And so there's a YouTuber, if you guys know who he is. His name is Mr. Sujano. And I came across this video in regards to Duckstation is dead. And this video was made 11 months ago. This would have been around the time or after ARCADE1UP released the Simpsons cabinet, but it's well beyond this point. So this was 11 months ago. Even the mame devs at that time, they probably weren't aware of some of these screenshots or this video. He had made a public announcement about how he felt about his code being used for commercial purposes. And he says, I fully agree with open source in principle. It's just in practice. The EMU community has way too many people trying to rip stuff off and make a buck. The only way to beat them is commercialize it yourself to some extent, and I don't have any interest in doing that. Fun part, the overwhelming majority of Duckstation code isn't GPL. There's no license headers in the files. And so to have this conversation here, followed by some of the other statements that you guys have seen on Reddit, again, I'll leave the links, that he never wanted his code to be used, resold, or used for any commercial purpose. So now the question is, well, then how does ARCADE1UP end with it? Tastemakers end up with his code in a public source being used for a commercial purpose. Now, if you guys watched Mr. Sujano's video, he did allude to somebody that Steznek was working with sometime, many months ago, and they wanted, I think it was some type of Chinese developer. I believe that's what this video said. I'm not going to play it. But he had a falling out with this other development team, and apparently they wanted to use his code to resell it or use it for some retro gaming company. So we never got a fully that answer as to what company that would have been that they were partnering with, but that was one of the reasons why he had a falling out, and that was one of the reasons why Duckstation ended up being dead at this time 11 months ago in the video. Now, Duckstation is still alive. It is not dead, but that was one of the reasons or things that were speculated as to why development on that project stopped many months ago. And so now let's go ahead and fast forward over to Glen. So here we have a situation in which a gentleman in the community made a Tron stick because the ones that ARCADE1UP were releasing kept breaking. And so they copied his design. One of these is ARCADE1UP's, the other one is Glen. And now they've had some back and forth about some type of legal disputes. I know that they've never sent Glen a cease and desist letter threatening him, saying that he copied their design. As far as I know, that's never been said. But apparently there's been some hush-hush talks of he's under NDA apparently for something. But I've talked about this here on my channel. Wolfenosa and I have kind of briefly talked about it. I've talked about it, I believe, in my NFL1UP video that I went live on. I think that was back in October, maybe November. I think that video is probably like an hour long. I did mention it. But, again, it was really... there's really a question mark to be stood here in the community why people will only make videos after the fact, but they never say anything preemptively. So I'm only going to play a few minutes of this so you guys can get a better idea about what's going on.
People beforehand to let me know this was coming, so it wasn't a shock, but how it was presented did. So let me show you a quick little video clip here.
Yeah, there's one other thing about the community that I think that you are really excited about. For the first time ever, it's been a long time coming. ARCADE1UP's going to be on Facebook. There is a Facebook group that is now official for the Facebook fan page. It is run by the amazing, incredible Lewis Chambers, an incredible guy in the community. And this is going to be a place where you're going to be able to go and talk to and interact with actual ARCADE1UP employees. There's polls, surveys. They're really going to be watching this page to find out what you guys and gals really want.
So keep in mind, Glen's page has been around since 2018, but they just totally disregarded the gentleman. And, you know, I understand that this is a big issue. You know, this does affect Glen in terms of, you know, you have a company using somebody else to open up another fan page, totally disregarding him as though he never existed, as though the company never had a voice. And, you know, for the life of me, I still can't wonder why ARCADE1UP doesn't make their own group. In fact, the new group that they're starting is not even their group. Another guy named Lewis Chambers had a group of about 28,000 people, and they just basically asked him to turn it into the official page rather than working themselves up from the ground up. And so none of the people over there who are admins or moderators are employees of ARCADE1UP. However, they are using the community. That's something that's already established to boost their numbers, because, you know, the companies look at that when, you know, you're working for licensing deals. They want to find out how many people are interested in your product, who's watching videos, you know, web traffic, who's watching, who has the most views, you know, #1 subscribers, as far as who's covering the content and how many people are in your Facebook group. So it wouldn't look good for them to have an official page that went from like 20,000 all the way down to 0, because if they had to start from fresh. So now they got to go use somebody because they're too lazy to do anything themselves, just like the rest of their quality assurance. But as you can see, the story building up, going from the emulation scene, what's been going on now, ARCADE1UP using emulators, supposedly, obviously without some type of commercial license, now to using people's banners, using joysticks and whatnot that are a blatant ripoff and copy of what somebody else has designed. It paints a bigger picture. And, you know, this is one of the reasons for maybe the past year and a half, 2 years, this is why people have called people shills, is because they know this stuff, but they still work with a company like this. We've known this for a long time. And, you know, ironically, even I've made personal posts on my Facebook page stating certain things. And some of you guys reached out to me and said, hey, Keo, well, so, you know, you got a personal problem with somebody, or they have a personal problem with you. And I'm like, no, I wasn't speaking out for myself. I was speaking out on behalf of other people. But you guys didn't know that, because I didn't want to put somebody's information on blast like Glen without him making a video like this. And so, you know, I did comment on his video that I was happy that he finally said something, because now we could really roll up our sleeves and put more of this out there in the public. But though, you know, those were the reasons why I was personally making those comments on my personal Facebook page, was just like, hey, it's wrong for CEOs or company representatives to threaten people and, you know, not treat them correctly. You know, I don't understand why they wouldn't have maybe just, you know, partnered up with Glen, or bring somebody into the fold, you know, like build somebody up, bring them into the fold. Like, hey, he had a great working equipment, let's bring him on board, you know, part-time. I personally think that that's how it should be done. Again, I don't work for the company, whatever it might be, but it's really awful to treat a person, not just Glen, but people in the community that have made contributions, and not have all your I's dotted, all your T's crossed. You know, there have also been people, I won't mention any names right now, I could, that have made other advancements to the cabinets in the community. You know, screw it. Like, for example, I went to Bobby's house back in 2019. He put that kick plate thing in at the bottom, you know, with the lit riser, and then all of a sudden the company started using stuff like that. So, you know, they sit around and watch what other people are doing in the community. They don't bring anybody on board, as far as what I know, but their agenda and what they're intending to do, based upon the information that we've seen here in the video, is just take what they can to stay on top. You know, it doesn't matter who they step on. And so again, you know, Glen, sorry all that stuff happened to you, but all of this just paints the bigger picture that here you have a company entity coming into our personal play space to, you know, some people may have concerns, say, hey, you got illegal ROMs, or don't post, you know, in the groups, or don't post links. Well, if they don't have a commercial license for their emulators, they're doing the exact same thing as any other Joe Blow would do in the community. And, you know, and that's fine, but they should find their own play space, find their own community. You know, don't try to rub shoulders with people who they know work with ROMs and images and everything else, because without the advancements of devs who make these emulators, and the advancements in the community, we won't know what works on what. If you guys see here, they still need to use mame. They still need to use Duckstation. And, you know, before I forget, I do know that ARCADE1UP for their Dragon's Lair cabinet, they did use Daphne Singe. And so I don't see any contributions here to Daphne from ARCADE1UP. And then I haven't seen anything here either from Flycast Dojo. We know they're using that for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So again, maybe it's something I've overlooked, but again, the purpose for this video was to create a history of some sort, or create a documented time or period in time where you guys can have all these facts, look at all this information for yourself, because as you can see, ARCADE1UP has only made 1, 2, 3, 4 contributions. I don't see anything here for Flycast Dojo, Daphne Singe, or anything else. And even the code that we do know for Duckstation hasn't either been fully submitted. And so for lack of transparency, you know, I do understand that there was also an apology made to Glen. It looked like it was forced, but where's the apology to all these devs? Where's the apology to the community for violating the GPLv3 Act? You had to be begged and asked 2 years later to do what you're legally required to do. But no, you won't hear any of that kind of stuff. But again, their lack of transparency only goes as far as what they think you should know. They don't want to talk about any of this kind of stuff here. And again, this isn't skepticism. This is all information. You guys can read all the comments for yourself that they're here as far as the things that ARCADE1UP has violated and what they are legally obligated to do. But of course, from Mr. Stesnek himself, he said if he had the money, he would sue them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I tried to keep this as short as possible, but I like to be informative and to the point in some regards. But wanted to give you guys my thoughts and concerns, because this is shady. This isn't right. Because imagine you yourself trying to make contributions to, you know, your hobby for, you know, whatever the case might be, and they just steamroll you. They just steamroll you. They don't give you any you know, credit for anything that you're doing. They just take your idea, they take your run with it, they take your code, and again, they need to have licenses just like all of us to play these games. So again, guys, consider liking and subscribing. I will catch you guys later. It's a really sad day for the community. We should be having fun in games, and people should do right by each other. But you guys all have a great day. I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.